together with a team of people working frantically to save this young man's life, the doctor called a time of death. It was a surreal moment for me, the first death of a patient in my experience. Fast forward an hour later, the family was in the hallway, obviously distraught at the unexpected, untimely loss of their young family member. The staff was attending to their grief. The patient was no longer the young man who passed away on the table, but rather the family who now was in so much pain and suffering at the loss of their son, their brother, their uncle, their husband. As nurses, we have chosen a profession which places us in people's lives at moments of their greatest vulnerability. Not every situation will be as tragic as the loss of a young person, as in this young man, nor will they necessarily be tragic, the birth of a baby, for example, a moment equally filled with emotion, but for different reasons. Nevertheless, we are privileged and called upon to minister to those patients and families at times of their greatest need. This is what we have chosen, and more importantly, I think it is to what we are called. And I use that word called because I believe this is a calling, a vocation, if you will. The word vocation has its roots in the Latin meaning to call, and it is often associated with calling to religious life or ministerial careers. A few weeks ago, in one of our student presentations, the students illuminated the connection between the word profession, which we all understand nursing to be, and its roots in the professing of vows taken by men and women in religious life. Those who are called, as in a vocation, or professed as in a profession, are making a commitment inherently deeper in its nature, with greater privileges, responsibilities, and expectations. The greater the privilege, the greater the responsibility and expectation, so too the greater the gift of the work. A vocation, a calling, also demands sacrifice. Think of how much we and others have sacrificed to reach this achievement tonight. A sacrifice is the forfeiture of something highly valued for the sake of something considered to have a greater value. We made it here tonight because we wanted it badly enough, and we were willing to make those sacrifices. The time lost with loved ones, the loss of sleep, the loss of summer, the hours of study and labor. A vocation needs to be fed and nurtured. It needs to be ever growing and developing, and that is what makes the difference between sacrifice and loss. Sacrifice entails the exchange of something greater. If we don't feed ourselves personally and professionally, we may lose that experience of the something greater. Some years ago when I taught, the school in which I taught developed what they characterized as the graduate at graduation, an inventory, if you will, of characteristics a graduate of that institution should possess. It struck me then, and it still does today, as a good measure against which one should make sure we are always growing and developing, feeding the vocation or profession. Huron School of Nursing also has what they consider to be the key characteristics of a graduate at graduation. They include being intellectually competent, professional, responsible, community involved, health promoting, efficient and effective, caring, culturally sensitive with dignity and respect. A pretty comprehensive list of characteristics. As you consider what kind of nurse you want to be a year from now or 5 years from now, think about these characteristics. I challenge you to consider what your characteristics would be. What will be your measure? How are you going to feed and nurture your vocation, your profession? Take inventory. I encourage you to identify your characteristics of a graduate at graduation and to revisit those characteristics throughout your professional career. Our patients and their families need us to be the best. We have worked too hard for a very long time to be nothing less than the very best. As Kelly said, it has been an arduous 22 months, and I too must commend my classmates, especially those of you who are working moms and dads, because your sacrifice has been great. We have, as she also said, come from a great diversity of walks of life, but will leave tonight having shared this common experience of Huron School of Nursing. For some of us, our hair is a little grayer, a little thinner, our waist may be a little thicker, but we are well prepared to be professional nurses. for most of us, tonight means goodbye. While this is a celebration of a terrific accomplishment, it is bittersweet knowing that we will no longer be seeing one another.